Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be making the pyramid bunker slash turret, whatever you want to call it, from Plastic Apocalypse. If you don't know what that is, then I'm going to put that on the screen right now, but I'm sure most of you do know what it is, so let's take a look. It's a short clip, but you know, it's one of the most iconic things about Plastic Apocalypse was that pyramid structure and that turret. So I'm going to put up a list and read out the materials and the tools that you need to build this. So you'll need a hot glue gun, a ruler, a pencil, 4 sheets of A4 sized balsa wood, some sort of knife, a construction kind of knife, more preferable. You need a rotatable object, I'll explain that later, and you need some wooden DIY sticks. And that is basically it. So you'll see here I'm doing some measurements. So you're going to want to get your pencil and draw a line roughly 10 centimeters in to the top left corner. And you're going to do the same thing for the top right corner. Now the bottom right, you're going to draw in 1 centimeter, if the camera wants to focus. So yeah, roughly 1 centimeter is where you want to draw on the bottom right corner. And then you're going to do the exact same thing in the bottom left corner. Now you want to try and get this as accurate as you can, so if the structure turns out in a good state, you don't want it to be wonky. And yeah, use a ruler to draw from one bottom corner to the top corner, and do that on both sides. Make sure to use a ruler so it's not all scruffy, preferably a longer ruler than what I have, but I have to work with what I've got. So yeah, this is what I ended up with. You want to do that for all 4 sheets of balsa wood, and then get your knife ready, and you're going to start slicing out these lines. So you want to make sure you get the line deep enough so that you're not left with any parts, well, bits of wood sticking on the side of the cutout. That can get annoying, so make sure you cut down far enough and snap it off. Also guys, I do want to apologize for the somewhat bad quality of this recording. I didn't have much room to film, so I had to just record it with with one hand, but yeah, I did what I could. So here we have all the cutouts. You'll be left with 4 pyramid shaped pieces of wood and those other shapes at the top. Now what you want to do now is glue the sides together. Now you want to try and get it so the glue is on the inside and not the outside, so there's less bits of glue tagging on the edges, but that's what you're going to want to try and do. Now once you've done that, you can decide whether or not you want to add some firing ports into the side, or firing holes, whatever you want to call them. You're going to draw roughly 3 centimeters up, I believe, or maybe more. How much is it here? Yeah, about 3 centimeters, and then you're going to want to create a gap of around 1.5–2 centimeters. That'll be a firing hole for your troops, if you want to do that. If you don't want to, then it's totally up to you. I didn't do it for this one, but you'll see here this is kind of coming together pretty well. The pyramid shape is looking good now. Now you're going to grab one of these spare pieces from the cutouts, and the good thing about this is the width of these triangles roughly match up to the size of the top, or the opening. So what you're going to do is measure out the edges and make sure these pieces of wood fit perfectly. Now you're going to get your hot glue gun, and you're going to glue those pieces of wood together. You see here I've cut them in half. Well, just one. You can just cut one in half at the correct location, and you'll end up with a somewhat square shape. And then you're going to measure it out from there, make sure it's the perfect size, and then you're left with a triangle here and a spare bit of wood. Now you're going to use this spare bit of wood to glue these 2 bits together so they're more stable, but here you can see it's just a regular square. And then once you've done that, you're going to glue it to the top, and now you can really start to see that this is coming together. The pyramid shape is there, and it looks pretty good. You could really just get away with doing a bunker like this. Now this bunker isn't 1-to-1 with the Plastic Apocalypse. This is slightly taller, I believe. The one in Plastic Apocalypse isn't that big, but yeah, I'm kind of working with what I've got now. You can build smaller ones. I did build a smaller pyramid bunker, but I didn't film that. I'll show a picture of that at the end. But what you're going to do now is you're going to cut these up into triangles. You can just use a ruler or whatever, but try and make sure the triangles are all the same size. Now it is key to get them the same size, otherwise you're going to end up with a wonky turret, and you do not want that to happen. Now what you're going to do is you're going to mark out a similar distance depending on the size of your pyramid. Mine here is 6 centimeters, so I mark that down on each triangle, and then what I'm going to do is draw a line between and then cut those out. So then I'm left with these 2D pyramids. And now, just like the bigger pyramid, these shapes will all be glued together and they will form the main turret part at the top of the bunker. So I'm going to do that, and yeah, we'll see what the result is. Now, one other thing you will need that I didn't put in the list, you will need some sort of gun to put in to the turret. Now, I'll be using this 50 caliber, and you can also cut out the front where the turret will be aiming out, or the gun will be aiming out, but it's entirely up to you what design you want to use. I just used this design, which is quite similar to the one in Plastic Apocalypse, and I also made the roof detachable, so you can pull the gun in and out and switch between different weaponry, which is what I recommend doing. It saves time and it means you don't have to waste, one of your weapons. You don't have to glue it in there and permanently fix it to the turret. You can just pull it out when you need to, and yeah, I think it still looks pretty good. Now I will say making the opening for the turret is kind of difficult, so best of luck with that. Now this is where the rotatable object comes in. You can use a piece of Lego, which is what I end up using, or you can use some sort of cylindrical object. Probably a good idea to get a piece of Lego or some sort of rotating object like this. You could use a smaller one or a bigger one. This is all I had available, so I had to work with this, but if you can get any sort of rotatable object, it should do the job. Now you can use these sticks, and these sticks don't really play much of a role in this pyramid, but they can be useful. You could use one of those, but it wouldn't be very stable. So now what you're going to do is you're going to get the top of the pyramid, and you're going to mark out the centerpiece, and then from there you're going to try and place in your rotatable object. I've had to build mine somewhat awkwardly because that's just how I ended up having to do it, and you'll see here it actually rotates pretty well. Now the way I've done this is I've just glued the top part to the rotating piece of Lego, and yeah, this is really the end result. Now the way I built the base of the moving turret is I just used the spare triangular pieces of wood that you could see at the background. Just use those to make the base, and then I scoop in the turret, and I glued the base of the movable turret to the top of the pyramid. And yeah, this was what the final result was, and I think it turned out pretty nicely. Definitely bigger than the Plastic Apocalypse one, but it 100% does the job, and it kind of looks more menacing since it is larger. Now with the main part of the bunker done, we're going to be making the doorway, or the entrance to the bunker. Now the way you do this is just by using the leftover triangles that were left over from cutting these pieces of balsa wood up, and you're going to measure sort of a rough distance of the size of a soldier. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you typically want a size that's maybe a centimeter or two larger than the soldier, so he can fit inside and get in and out. And you're going to measure those off. You're going to cut them into smaller pieces. You're also going to cut out a rectangular part, which will be used as the roof, as I'm trying to demonstrate here. But you can kind of see what I'm going for. We'll glue this together and show you guys what I mean. You'll also cut out a piece of cardboard. Now you want to make sure the cardboard is slightly larger than the entrance to the door, and the reason for that is you'll be making a slice here in the side of the cardboard, and you'll be bending this part here, which is where the glue will go, and this will allow for the door to be opened and closed. So you can kind of see what I'm going for there. Front of the door, this bit is the side where you can open and close it. So we'll glue that into here, and yeah, if you need to make any adjustments you can do. You can see here I kind of made the door a little bit too large, so I will be trimming that down very slightly, but you kind of get the idea. So that is all of that glued together. You can see I added a small door handle using a bit of those wood sticks. Now the wood sticks aren't vital to this structure. You can do without them, but they can be helpful for filling gaps or doing other sort of things. And yeah, that is the doorway really. Now you can cut part of the pyramid out if you want the door to be larger, but this will work for stop motion. You can just obscure the inside part, but yeah, that is the inside of the bunker, and there's the door. I think this turned out pretty nicely. Definitely a lot better than cardboard, so I recommend using wood if you can, balsa wood. It's not really that expensive, so the entry cost isn't very much. You just need a glue gun and balsa wood basically, and a cutting tool, and you can get this built. Yeah, this isn't one-to-one. It is larger than the Plastic Apocalypse, but it definitely looks the same in my opinion. It's pretty well built, and it's certainly better than my previous version, which was made out of cardboard. Now if you do want to get this kind of color and, well, not the color, the texture. All you have to do is get PVA glue, cover the pyramid, and then throw dirt or sand onto it and let that dry out, and then paint over the top of it, and you'll get that sort of gritty texture. But yeah guys, that is it. That is how you build the pyramid from Plastic Apocalypse. Now you can make it smaller or larger, but roughly this is what you have to do to get it done. And you'll see next to that I have another pyramid structure. That other one's probably more in scale with the one from Plastic Apocalypse, but I used that as just a regular bunker. So that is it guys, thank you all for watching, and yeah, I'll see you lot on the next one. Take care.